okay. Yeah, because you do. Yeah, never mind. Math is
Wait,
hard.
I know. That's why I was like panicked. I was like, wait, hold on. Welcome to the Incoherent Fangirl.
Where this week we may have found another kindred spirit.
Oh my gosh. I'm Mandy of Eden, Kentucky.
And I am Karin from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or as you may know it,
Nerd,
NASA.
nerd.
I'm proud of it.
Before you do the time, I have a very special announcement, and I know we're doing announcements at the end, but I don't think this one can wait. As we are recording, it is the show dog George Bailey's Gotcha Day. 12 years ago, at
Oh,
about this time, I was probably giving him a bath.
oh.
Like, so everybody say Happy Gotcha Day a week ago when you're listening to the show dog.
That's so, oh my
The
gosh.
baby.
That's so long ago.
Yeah, I
Time
know. We've
flies.
been through everything together, me and that
Time
dog.
flies, man.
All right, now do the gross, awful
Uh,
stuff that you have to
well,
say every week.
I don't like it.
I
In
don't
our
either.
timeline, it is August 24th, and in your timeline, it is September 1st.
I don't like this at all. I'm not a fan. I don't like it.
That's that's so gross. I
I
don't
don't
like
like
it.
it.
But also,
Mm-mm.
it's officially pumpkin spice season. Starbucks has put out their pumpkin spice products, and I'm very happy. Happy
I'm here to
Pumpkin
tell
Spice
everyone
Day.
to get the caramel apple spice instead of the pumpkin spice because
Happy
I
Pumpkin
like the pumpkin
Spice
things. Yes,
season
happy pumpkin spice
to
season.
everybody who
I like
celebrates.
I like pumpkin things, but I will forever choose caramel apple over pumpkin. If it's the option, that's what I want. That's what I want.
Mm,
Give me all the caramel apple things.
I
Cinnamon
can't.
apple, I don't care.
I can't.
Apple.
It's perpetually pumpkin season for me.
Look,
Perpetually.
I got some pumpkin cookies and some pumpkin Oreos the other day. Like I'm not knocking. I just never gonna drink
That's
a PSL.
always. Well, you don't even drink coffee.
I know, and the caramel apple spice doesn't have coffee in it. Hey.
This week in fangirling, what'd you do, girl?
All right. Not a ton. I finished In Charm's Way by Lana Harper. So as a brief reminder, it was the Delilah and Cat story. Delilah performed a really powerful spell and she awakened a bunch of cryptids that like were called to come attack her. And Cat conveniently shows up and she's a monster hunter, like in the same breath. I didn't like it. I really
That
didn't.
ending was just the whole is
I was
definitely my
so
least favorite.
bored. Like it
I didn't
screamed from the start, hey, guess what the plot twist is going to be? So I was like,
I I I I didn't connect with either of them, really.
no, I
I
didn't like it.
felt
They were
I felt
rude.
really bad for Nina the whole
Yes.
time.
And that maybe because you already love her from the last book. So you're like,
Yeah.
you're talking to my guy all wrong here. Like,
Also, I felt like I don't know, maybe I'm not remembering it properly because I read it so long ago, but I feel like Delilah's very different than the character she was in the first book.
yeah,
Like she
yeah,
feels very different, right? I mean, I
yeah.
haven't read it recently, so I don't know, but from what I remember, she
Yeah.
feels different.
Which I mean, I get she lost all of
She
her
went through
memories,
trauma,
or
yeah.
she went through something traumatic that does change a person, but something bad happening to you does not excuse you being awful to other people
Yeah.
because it wasn't just Nina that she was awful. She was
Hmm.
awful to Morty, who did not do anything to you,
All
but
he
he's
did was
trying to
be
bring you
Nina's
food.
partner.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and he's bringing her food and doing like trying to do kind things for her, and you're being rude to him too. He didn't do it.
Mhm.
If you want to be mad at Nina,
That's
whatever.
fine, but like
But
it's
you're
not
taking
guilt
it
by
out on a lot of people.
association. Yeah.
Right, right.
And
And
then
I
that
did,
ending was just
yeah, the ending, and I put that in my review that like that ending kind of made me mad. It really did.
I did not enjoy it, the ending.
Mm-mm.
I was
I felt like a lot of it was lazy. I felt like the plot was lazy. I just, I
I
was
did
bored.
I did kind of love Nina even more after this book though.
Yeah.
Like because she you could tell, like you could see how hard she was trying and how
Mhm.
bad she felt, and she was trying so hard.
Yeah.
And Delilah was just like, "Girl."
And it's funny that Delilah couldn't see that Nina did this like spur of the moment rant, like, I'm just going to suddenly do this, which is the exact same thing you did. So it's
Mhm.
pretty hypocritical of
Mhm.
you to, hold her to a different standard
Well,
than you hold yourself.
and on top of that, like Delilah also hurt other people because
Right.
of it. And I mean it's I mean, I would say almost worse because that girl could have died,
Right.
like legitimately because of Delilah's actions.
Right.
And she just doesn't realize, like
Doesn't connect the dots.
she's so like entrenched in her anger and her rage that she's not seeing she's doing the same thing.
Right.
I mean, I didn't hate the book. It
I didn't
just
hate it. I didn't like it
it
either.
just
Like,
wasn't my favorite.
there were
There
like
were
towards the end, I was like, I have to finish this book. And my nieces were like, "Is this the one you're not loving?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just
I
have to finish."
I the moment with, when with her and Nina and Emmy and the group, like
Mm,
I liked that
hmm.
because she was finally like pulling her head out of her ass.
Right.
But like you
But
spend
then,
the whole book like so annoyed with her.
right, that you're like, this is so too much too late.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert for the ending. Skip
Yes.
ahead like 30 seconds. I do not like that Kat could lie to her this whole time and then just come
Just
back and
come
it's like,
back.
"Oh, it's fine. It's okay."
It's not.
No, it's not okay
It,
though. Like, you used her so much and
uh,
you
the
still took the thing that you came to steal from her. Like, if
mm-hmm.
you wanted to fess up and then be like, "I'm gonna leave this with you though, and I'm gonna do the right thing," it might be different, but she's still like, "This is what I came for, bye," and
Yeah.
then comes back?
And then comes
No.
back and is like, I've
I was
left
pissed.
that community and I want to try and like that's
Yeah, after you
Delilah.
gave them
The
what they
fuck.
wanted, after you gave them what they wanted.
The
Like,
fuck are
I
you
can
doing?
be with
I I
you've
I
seen that in books. You've seen that in books before, like, where they make the stupid thing and they walk away, or they say, "I lied to you, but I have to come clean now. I'm not gonna do what I told them I'd do." But
you know
you did it.
and the thing is she only she like barely she wasn't going to come clean until
Right.
like Delilah, so it's like
She was gonna take her too.
she was
Like,
just gonna
what?
she was just gonna be like, let's do this, like
Yeah. Hated
bullshit.
it. Hated that.
Yeah,
Hated that part of it
that the
for
ending
sure.
was really just
Yeah, infuriating.
infuriating. Like, what are we teaching young
Yep.
girls?
And I think I literally said that in my review. I was like, "This is not the example that I want to set
No.
for anybody."
Like, I understand that there's a format for romance novels, which
Mhm.
this is, but like at some point you've got to deviate from that if the story is telling you to
Right.
deviate from that. And that's
Right.
exactly what it did. Like I felt like the reconciliation only happened because that's what's expected,
Right.
and I don't think it should have happened.
Like, it would have been cool to me if, like, maybe, Kat's powers awakened, or she had something awaken in her at the same time that all of the cryptids did.
Mhm.
Like, I knew something was weird because suddenly I had something new and different and I was called here. Not, well,
It would,
I was already on the way.
I feel like it would have been like a reconciliation between Delilah and Kat I would have been okay with it had it not been in this book. Like if the next
Right.
book was like from Kat's
Redemption
POV,
story.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was like it's their story continued. Like book 5 is Delilah and Kat, but from
Yeah.
Kat's POV and her trying to like make up for her bullshit.
Yeah.
Like I
It
feel
was
like
just too
that
quick. It was
it was
way
way
too
too
quick.
quick. Way too quick. I feel you.
Yeah. So yeah, I finished that, didn't love it. I on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, I finished Starling House and I absolutely loved it. So again, refresher, Opal lives in Eden, Kentucky, and she's been haunted by dreams of this house that is in her town, Starling House. And she ends up being offered a job as a housekeeper there by like they call him a sick crow, the human gargoyle. I put the weird AF warden of Starling House, Arthur. There's weird stuff going on in the town. So like there's this coal power plant and it gives like there's poison in the water vibes. Like I mentioned last week, the Teflon controversy, Flint, Michigan. They know something and they're covering it up. The power plant is poisoning the people and gets fined by the government, pays the fine and continues to do what they're doing because they have so much money they don't care. Well, Opal, like I mentioned last week, was being stalked by this researcher, this person who she was very corporate and she's a researcher who is desperate to get access to Starling House. You learn very quickly that this woman is not good. She threatens Opal's brother to get Opal to comply, and she's trying to get Opal to spy on Arthur, send her photos and videos of the inside of Starling House because no one ever goes in. And Starling House is a dark goth casita from
Okay,
Encanto.
yeah.
So it if you need a toothbrush and you turn your back, suddenly there's a toothbrush on the counter. If you need cereal, suddenly there's cereal that just shows up.
Wait, why do they need a housekeeper then?
Because the one single warden of the house is depressed, basically.
Oh, that's
And
fair.
so so she goes in and the house kind of comes to life. Because remember, I mentioned last week that he is very awkward, and it's like he has no idea how to be social or be around people. It's because he was raised by wardens of the Starling House to be the warden of the Starling House and nothing else.
Mm,
So he has known nothing but this house, and there's a lot of terrible things that happened to and
okay.
around him in this house that spoilers. So he's let it fall into disrepair. She goes and she does clean things, but things also start to repair themselves as well.
Hmm.
Good question
Okay.
though. Yeah, it's
Cool.
very, very cool. It was so freaking good. Alex E. Harrow is an insanely talented writer. There's always things in books that you're reading that you expect to happen. You expect, like when I say that the researcher lady is threatening Opal's brother, that something is going to come to a head with that plot line,
Hmm.
but you don't
Hmm.
always know what.
Right.
I felt like I never knew what the next thing was going to be. And I love that
I
because
love that.
yeah, because as someone who, and you'll understand this too, as someone who reads so much and as someone who writes, it
Yeah.
can get kind of predictable. It can get
Yeah.
easier to predict what's going to happen next in a book. So
Hmm.
this was fantastic. I got tickets to a bookish author event with Alex E. Harrow in October today. I'm so excited. I also got one for Shelby Mahurin and Rebecca Ross today. It was a good day for me. Then I read Frenemies with Benefits by Lydia Sharp. So we've got Jess Webster. She's about to graduate when she finds out that her brother is coming home. He's gonna volunteer in Cambodia for a month. He's either a doctor or a doctor in training. I can't remember. Like he's in school and volunteering. So he's coming home for the month of July with his hot friend Andrew. And she's had the hots for Andrew for a while, but she is so incredibly awkward around him that like when she's with him, when Andrew's around, she just like chokes on a few syllables until she's got to like shut down. It's so bad. So she decides that when Andrew is living in her house, because Andrew and her brother are like staying in their parents' house, she's like, I'm gonna seduce him. But the problem is she's a virgin and she has no idea. Like she's awkward and she has no idea what she's doing when it comes to boys. So one day it's the last day of school and she's venting to her best friend Raina and she's like, I've got to figure something out. I've got to learn how to like be seductive and be like a minx and all of that. And her frenemy Ben overhears it. So Raina has this boyfriend. I think her boyfriend's name is Jeremy. Jess is Raina's best friend. Ben is Jeremy's best friend. And so they have like a friend group where they
Got
all eat lunch together, do things together. Everybody's coupled up except for Jess and Ben who hate each other.
it.
So he is the quarterback of the football team, the most popular guy in school. He's hot. And she jokingly refers to him as the sex god because he's like always with a new girl, like every other week. So he's a pain in her ass. She thinks sarcastically, he overhears and he's like, I'll give you lessons. And she's like, what? Lessons to so
Mhm.
that she can be more confident in herself when Andrew gets to town, right? It's going to be purely physical, of course. And then they can continue to mutually loathe each other after.
Mhm. Sure.
So
Yeah.
Jess is desperate. So she takes him up on her offer, but we all know where fake dating, and especially fake dating with benefits tends to go. It's cheesy at times, but it's a book written for teenagers.
Yeah.
So what you can expect that. I really didn't like her best friend. She felt really gossipy and like
Mm.
she redeems herself kind of in the end, but a lot of times I wanted to shake Jess too, like the main character, and be like, girl. It had a lot of tropes that I normally don't love. So we have miscommunication and a third act breakup, which I'm like, but the very first part of the book is like a letter from the author that she talks about, like she was kind of a late bloomer, and so all of her friends were having sex and she was like afraid to ask them questions about it, and she didn't have a maternal figure that she was comfortable talking to about it. So she was like, I had two options: either reading like a science textbook that is very clinical, or a romantic fantasy book from my grandmother's shelf that is fantastical and not realistic either.
Right.
And then she said she found Forever by Judy Blume, and she said that was like the only thing that she remembers that like taught her anything about what it's like to be a teenager and have feelings like that and not know what to do. So she said she wanted to write a book that might help. She wrote the book she needed when she was
Hmm.
young,
Hmm.
when she was 17, 18, whatever.
Right.
So it was really sweet from that perspective, because it's like, this could
Yeah.
have helped, my 16-year-old self or whatever, like this
Right.
might have been nice to see. So I enjoyed it. It was a real quick read. It took me like, it's like 3 hours. So it's a short book.
Yeah.
But it was cute. I liked it. And then I barely started A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed today. I've read like 5 minutes. So I'm not even gonna give you a plot yet because I don't have it. But that's what I did this week. What did you do this week?
So last week I talked about Tessa Miyatta's No Hero by Julie. It's Abe. It's Julie Abe, I found
Okay.
out, confirmed. So quick recap, Tessa is Japanese American and she's never really fit in, especially after her supposed best friend post a video of her onto social media that kind of makes her look like a lunatic, like she's talking. It looks like she's talking to
Oh.
herself, and her supposed best friend like completely disavows her, and she's always wanted to be popular, and now that she's had a video go viral, she's like the popular kid and is totally not Tessa's friend anymore. And so Tessa basically has no friends. And she's like, doesn't fit in. Everybody teases her, all of this. But she's spending the summer in Japan with her two older sisters and her paternal grandparents. And she's like, this is my opportunity to go on exciting adventures and post to social media and show the kids, like, hey, I can be cool too. Except she's not really allowed to leave the house. The only trip out that she's allowed to take is with her grandfather and the neighbor boy Jin Uehara to a seniors aerobics class. And she's like,
God.
well,
My
this
God.
sucks.
That's
Uh,
torture.
right? But something happens where her grandfather has to go home, and he leaves them with this precious family heirloom and is like, "Hey, you guys keep going. Go to the like antique dealer person to have them repair this or fix it up or whatever it is." Because in Japan, kids are like more
Yeah.
independent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Grandpa goes home. Jin and Tessa have this precious family heirloom, and they're going to the place, when they are stopped by these kids who start picking on Tessa and are like enemies of Jin's because he's like the top dog at their like karate studio, and they're like super jealous of him, and so
Yeah.
they're trying to like pick on him kind of thing, and they end up breaking the heirloom, which unbeknownst to anybody actually contains a malicious samurai god.
Oh shit.
And so now Tessa and Jin, who are joined by their brand new mystical kitsune friend who has no memory of who he is, but they have named Kit, they go on an adventure to like a hidden part of the city to train and get weapons so that they can like vanquish this god and save the city. And it's like very like, it feels like just a fun kids adventure. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's this evil god that's trying to destroy Tokyo, but like, obviously, they never really feel like they're in super danger because they're kids, and you never
Yeah.
like are anxious about it because you're like,
Yeah.
it's fine. It's a middle grade. They'll be fine.
It's like
Everything
Percy
will be fine.
Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, I was not too worried, but it was fun seeing like, because Jin was like, at first glance, he was like, she feels like a weirdo, and she's over here like, I don't fit in anywhere. And so it was fun to see like their relationship blossom, like their friendship blossom.
Yeah.
And Tessa starting to like grow into her own and like get a little more confident and stuff. So it was fun. There was a little bit of a twist near the end, which I didn't see right away, but like as it was going on, I was like, oh, what if this is something that happens? And so it was cool. It was cool. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. It was fun. I think especially middle grade readers, I think they'll love it. It was like a fun adventure.
Very
So
cute.
that was that. I did read the last book, the fourth book in the Front Desk series by Kelly Yang, because there's a fifth book coming. It's called Key Player, and this time the Women's World Cup is coming to Southern California, and it's U.S. versus China, and it's these are the two parts of Mia's identity. So she's like, whoa, they're coming together. This is great. But also Mia is not really like a sports person. She's like a writer. So she's like not really like super into it like everybody else is. She's actually kind of focusing on trying to get this scholarship for a journalism class up in or journalism camp up in the Bay Area, and she needs to get straight A's in order to like secure this scholarship. However, she's not doing so great in PE.
Oh.
um but her PE teacher gives her the opportunity to raise her grade if she can secure an interview with either Team USA or Team China, and write like a report or a column in their school newspaper. And so, if there's one thing Mia can do, it's fight for her dreams, which she does, even in the face of prejudice and discrimination, which, let's be real, this is like the 90s. There's definitely lots of
Oh yeah.
prejudice and discrimination, especially because it's US versus China and it's a big
Right.
deal. So she goes through a lot, but she never
Oh,
gives up. And I think Mia is the coolest character. And like, I wish that I had her when I was a kid. Like, I'm so glad
yeah.
this character exists. Um,
Yeah. She
it's
exists for your kid.
she's perfect. I can't wait for her to read these books.
Yeah.
But yeah, like honestly, it's such a fun series, and it does tackle a lot of like hard-hitting topics, but in such a like, I don't want to say dumbed down, but like an easier way for kids to digest, and I
Yeah.
think it's great. So, highly
More age
recommend.
appropriate. Not
Yes,
dumbed down.
yes.
It's more age
It's
appropriate.
not
Yeah.
dumbed down. I just like couldn't think of
Yeah.
a
That's
word
just the thing
because
you go to. Yeah.
right? Like, because my brain is dumbed down always. And then I read a bunch of books. I read You with a View by Jessica Joyce, which follows Noelle and Theo, who are high school nemesis. Noelle is currently unemployed and living at home with her parents when she finds some old photos of her very beloved and recently deceased grandmother with a man that her grandmother is very, very clearly smitten with, and also is definitely not her grandfather. And so
Awkward.
she's like, I don't know anything about this. So she posts the photos to TikTok and is like, hey, does anybody know who this is? I would love to get in touch with him, because I don't know about this part of my grandma's life. And they were really close. So she's like, I want to learn about it. And then somebody reaches out and is like, hey, that's my grandpa. And so they start talking and they plan for to meet up. Turns out it's Theo. Theo's grandpa Paul is the man in the photo.
Weird.
So Noelle was like, this can't be happening. But the more that she like interacts with Paul, like she adores Paul. Paul is like the coolest grandpa, and she like loves him, and he's like telling her stories about her grandma, and she finds out that they had planned to elope and take like a road trip honeymoon to a bunch of national parks on the West Coast. But they obviously that didn't happen. And so Noelle feels this pull to like, I'm gonna do the road trip. And so she asks Paul, and he's like, that sounds great. I want to come with you. And so she's like, oh, okay. And he's like, also, I think Theo should come with us.
Of course you should.
Of course he should. So now, the three of them are on this road, like 2-week road trip through all these beautiful, gorgeous national parks. And it's, enemies slash rivals to lovers. It's second chance adjacent because they never really
Yeah.
like, forced
Yeah.
proximity. There's only one bed. Well, technically there's two beds, but Paul takes one of the beds, so there's only one
Yeah.
left. And it's just, it's a good time. It's a good time. And they, go through a lot. And Noelle is really getting attached to both of them because she's learning all about this information about her grandma, who she loved so much, and who Paul was clearly a big part of her life. And then she's reconnecting with Theo in a way that she never imagined. And, things happen, and it's a romance, and
Oh.
it's really cute. And I listened to it while I was on a road trip, so it was like
Yeah.
the perfect backdrop.
Yeah, that's cool.
Um, Loved it. Then I read If You Change Your Mind by Robbie Weber. After last summer, Harry is convinced that love only exists in the movies, so he's determined that this summer he's going to buckle down, avoid distractions, which means boys, and finish his screenplay in order to enter it into a contest that he thinks is going to bolster his college admissions packet so that he can get into his dream school. But then the boy that broke his heart last summer has returned, and he is
Of course
trying to
he
make
has.
amends, and is trying to reconnect with Harry. But there's also a new boy in town who is staying with his aunt and uncle for the summer before he goes to college in New York, and he's so charming and sweet, and kind of makes Harry question everything he's ever known about romance and love. And it's it's not exactly a love triangle, but it's, I don't know how to explain it, but it's very cute.
Oh.
There are parts where there's one part where it's you really hate this guy
Yeah.
because he's obviously trying to be fighting, the not fighting, but he's trying to win Harry's heart,
Yeah.
and he's being a jackass about it. But for the most part, everybody's pretty chill and nice to each other, and it's kind of refreshing to
Yeah.
not have so much animosity, even though it's matters of love and all of that. And the new boy Logan is very sweet. He's so sweet, he's so charming.
Logan.
He immediately bonds with Harry's sisters and is the cutest. It's so cute. I really enjoyed it. And there are snippets of Harry's screenplay that he's writing in the book, interspersed throughout the
Sprinkled
story.
in there. Yeah.
So you get to watch Harry's story, but then you get to watch because obviously he writes what he knows, and so it's this superhero tale, but it relates directly to his current experience as
Does
well.
he even realize that?
I don't think he realizes it until Logan reads it and is so
Realize all
this
these
is
parallels, right?
he was so I feel I already know this guy because I can't remember what the guy's name is, but he's he hasn't met him yet, but he's I feel I already know him.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, it's cute. I
Oh.
really enjoyed it. It's very gay and I loved it. Always Be My Duchess by Amelie Howard. Pretty Woman meets Bridgerton. Lysander
She
is the
knows how
Duke.
to write a Regency.
She really does.
Yeah.
So Lysander is the Duke of Montcroy, and all he hears about is increasing his very, very large fortune because he has some trust issues, and he kind of puts his emotions locked down because of these issues. And it's money can't ever break his heart, so that's what he's focusing on. But
Right.
unfortunately, because of this reputation that he has for being heartless, it's starting to jeopardize this really big deal that he wants to lock down,
Mhm.
until former up and coming ballerina Genevieve comes along and accidentally saves his life. And she's oh no, last time she encountered nobility it didn't go so well, and she's not really a fan. But he surprises her by propositioning her, not in the way that she expected. He wants her to act as his fake fiance in order to prove that he's not completely heartless, and she'll get a whole big bundle of money, so that she can restart with her sister who is currently injured.
Pause. If anyone out there wants me to be their fake fiance, my husband is all for it if you want to pay me. Just putting that out there.
Same, minus the
Yes.
husband.
Yes.
I will
You're gonna
happily
pay.
pose.
Yes, I will be
I
your fake
will
fiance.
I will pose as whatever you need me to pose as, okay?
Give me a
I'm here.
chunk of cash.
If you want to help me put my kid through college, I'm here for it,
Yeah, it's fine.
So, but yes. I agree. But anyways, as we have talked about already in this very episode, fake dating, fake fiancés leads to things.
Doesn't
And
it's
it
not going to lead to things
it's
if
not
it's
going to
me.
lead to, no.
If it's
In
me,
re,
it's not.
it's different in real life.
It's redacted. That part's redacted.
The tropes in the books are not the same as
Yes.
real life.
Yes.
It does not exist the same in real life.
No.
But in this book, things happen.
Yes.
And it's the first book, which in what I think is going to be a one, two, three, four book series. Because Genevieve, Nev, they call her Nev, she kind of gets in with this group of girlfriends who are kind of like the nobility who don't care what anybody think.
Oh, I love them.
They're amazing. So
Yeah.
one of them's already married, and then the three others are single. One of them is very clearly going to end up with somebody who we're introduced to. So I
Yeah.
expect there's going to be a book there. There is already a second book. I think it's called Never Met a Duke Like You. That's
I
coming
think I
out
have that one.
in November.
I think I have an arc of that.
I do, yeah.
I could be
Which is why I
wrong.
read this one.
Yeah.
And then there's like another part of the person in the group who is single. So I think there's gonna be three more.
Yeah.
I hope. I hope.
Of
Um,
course.
so yeah, but it's Omley Howard, it's Regency, it's amazing.
She's
Love it.
kills it. She kills it.
Love it. It's amazing. Two more, almost done. I read The Darkening by Sanyamara because this is another Fairy Loot edition that I have that they were putting up the sequel for sale, and I was like, I need to know if I need it. Spoiler alert, I don't need it. Um, so we've got Vesper, who is the daughter of failed revolutionaries. Her mother was captured and essentially executed. Her and her father have been in hiding. I think it's been like 12 years or something like that until she does something dumb and he is revealed to still be alive. And so the queen's soldiers and the prince come and capture her dad. But they don't know that they had a daughter, so Vesper's like still in hiding, but she's like, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna leave him in their clutches. So she disguises herself, aided by magic, and infiltrates like the prince's super elite squad of soldier sorcerer people by pretending to be the apprentice for one of his like right hand men. But there are like things that her parents did, and reasons for why her parents did things that they did that she doesn't know until she like infiltrates the squad and she starts learning things. And so she has to kind of make a choice between giving up her family's secrets and kind of and saving their city. And there's like this like romance subplot that was trying to be built with like Vesper and the prince, but it's like really weird, and I wasn't really into it. And there's this one character who is like the other right hand man of the prince who I adored, and then like he just wasn't there anymore, and I was like, but I love him, make him come back.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I felt like there was a lot of potential in this book, but it just fell flat a bit. I will be
hate
reading
that.
the sequel just because I want to know how it finishes out,
You don't
but
need the Fairy Loot signed
but I
exclusive.
but I feel like I don't need to own these books.
You can just get it on Kindle or Libby or
Yeah.
something.
So yeah, like it's not bad. There were just a lot of things that just it didn't feel like it fit. Like I felt like the romance was forced into there.
Yeah.
It didn't feel very much like it there was no build up to it. It was just all of a sudden. And it wasn't I don't even want to say it was like insta love either, because it's not like they
Right.
see each other and they're like immediately attracted to each other. It just
It's
was
fast
like
burn.
I don't know, it was so weird. So I didn't really, I don't know. It fell flat. There's a lot of potential. There's some pretty good world building. It just I feel like it didn't come together. And I
Right.
also feel like there were like very distinct, like this is one story and then this is a second story. Like there were two
That's
distinct
how
separate plots.
the Crown of Ivy and Glass book that I read I think it was in the middle of last season was, where it was like this should have been 4 books.
But yeah, it just felt like there were two distinct stories that like
Yeah.
plots. that
Yeah.
just started
This
and ended.
A Crown of Ivy and Glass was Claire Legrand, and it was the same
Okay.
way where it was like you have smushed 3 books into one for no
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah. So
I
it
hate
wasn't
that.
bad. The writing was good. It didn't come together for me.
Wasn't for you.
But I will be
That's
reading the
allowed.
sequel.
Well, at
Just
least there's
because
that.
I just, like I'm invested enough that I want to find out how it ends, but
Right.
I'm not invested enough where I'm like, I need this right
Right.
now. So,
Right.
and then finally, I read Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood.
Eh,
Slowly making my way through her books. Follows B, who gets offered the lead on a neuroengineering project from NASA. And she's over the moon about it. No pun intended. Until she finds out that she's actually co-lead with Levi Ward, who was her nemesis in grad school. Made it very clear he was not a fan of hers, and she was like, well, guess we just hate each other. Or so she thought. But now they're at NASA together, and she can't seem to get any of her equipment. She keeps missing meetings. The male scientists won't freaking listen to her. Like, there's literally one part where this guy
that
is like,
pisses
well,
me off.
there's literally there's this one guy who's like, well, I took a class once in college, and she's like, this was my literal PhD.
Yeah. I took
Literally,
more of those.
I took many classes on it.
Way more of those.
And so she's just like frustrated. She can't seem to like, like do the work that she's there for because of all this bullshit. And she thinks that, like Levi's stalling so that she can just not be a part of this project,
Yeah.
right? Well, turns out Levi kind of seems to have her back. Like, he goes to like whoever's overseeing it and starts yelling like she needs to have her equipment, blah blah blah, and this and this, and she like
Levi.
overhears it, and like that guy who was like, I took a class once, he's like, well, I think we're gonna defer to her expertise on this. And she's like confused. She's like, he's helping me, I don't
Yeah.
understand. And so yeah, and it's a romance, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. It's an Ali Hazelwood romance.
It's an Ali Hazelwood romance, and it gets the job done, and
Yep.
I loved it. And I'm currently
What's the first one?
Love Hypothesis.
Have you read that one yet?
Yeah, that was the first one I read.
Okay.
But it was during
you
the
must have read it
break.
on break. Okay, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, because you haven't talked about it, and that's the one that's based on Adam Driver's real. Okay.
Yeah. No,
Just
I
making
read it
sure.
during break. I read that one on break. And
Okay.
then by the time we recorded last week, I had read the novellas. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so
Yeah.
now you have Love Theoretically to go
Yep.
to.
That's the last one.
That's
I
a
have.
good one. That's a good one. I read that one.
I'm excited. And then until Check and Bait comes out later this year.
I know, I have the arc. I just haven't gotten to it.
I don't have it, but it's fine. I'll survive. And I'm currently reading an arc of A Tall Dark Trouble by Vanessa Montalban. When I wrote my notes, I was like 3 chapters in, and now I'm currently like halfway through the book, and I'm really I don't wish because I love doing this, but I also was like, can I skip recording so that I can finish this book? Like, I'm really into it right now.
Yeah.
Because something was just revealed, and I was like, did not see that coming.
Yeah.
So I'm like very excited. But it's told in dual timelines, and in the present day, you have twins Delphi and Ophelia, who goes by Leela, and they're kind of been followed by like malevolent magic all their lives, and their powers are starting to ramp up, and they're seeing visions of like people being murdered, and
shit.
they like have to team up with their best friend and this like detective in training who also happens to be like Delphi's ex to like catch a killer. And the other timeline is 1980s Cuba, which follows Anita, who she's the daughter of one of like the leaders of Las Palomas, which is very cult like. And their job is to be like the magical guards of the commandant, and protect it.
They sound
and
serious.
so Anita is like, well, I don't really want to do that, because they're doing bad things, and so she's like whispering to spirits for help, but not really for herself, for the victims of this cult. And she and through the book you start to figure out what the connection is between like these two timelines, and it's so good, and I cannot wait to finish it. It comes out on Tuesday, so by the time this episode comes out, the book will be out. And then I'm also in the middle, I'm like 50% of the way through Season of Love by Helena Greer, I'm not quite sure. But it's a Jewish lesbian who inherits part of a Christmas tree farm
Hey.
alongside her favorite cousin who has been working on this farm because it was their aunt's farm. Her absentee childhood best friend who used to work on the farm and has left and nobody knows where he is. He also is her cousin's ex, and the butch lesbian farm manager who she butts heads with immediately. But they
I
have
feel
to
like I know
save
where
the
that's
farm.
going.
They have to save the farm.
Yeah.
And it's really good. I am enjoying it so far. And yeah,
Very
I
nice.
just the idea a Jewish lesbian inherits a Christmas tree
Christmas
farm.
tree farm.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it already.
But yeah, so that is what I'm currently reading, and I'll probably finish talking about those next week. I will say that I did go to Southern California this past weekend. Yes, it was when we were on hurricane alert, which is the weirdest thing I've ever said in my life. I did not go to Steamy Lit Con, but I hung out in the hotel with like and visited with friends. I got to meet Estelle and Dana from Forever in real life. I got to meet Caroline, who was the intern for Forever, who is amazing. I love her. I got to meet Lisa Lynn in person, a friend of the podcast.
Yeah.
Corelia Stets Waters, who also is a friend of the podcast.
And
Also,
Faye. Did you
and
meet Faye?
Faye. I met
Yeah.
Faye. I get it. I understand why Corelia is obsessed with Faye because she's
Yeah.
amazing. I love her as
Yeah.
well. I can't wait for their book to come out and for them to come back.
I know. I know.
Love, 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 love. And I also got to meet Melissa Grace, who is an indie author, just signed with an agent, and not just any agent, Abby Jimenez's agent,
Oh,
and
congratulations.
I'm very excited for her. I got to hug her and it was great. And I was just like, you're real. We're real people. Because we talk all the time. And it was great. And like two or three people recognized me or my name from the internet. And that was like surreal.
Hey.
I was like, what do you mean you know who I am? That was weird, but exciting. And I'm not wearing it right now. But as we know, my Disney wife Heather lives in Southern California, and we had dinner in downtown Disney and then we went shopping, and I made a joke about how, well, she didn't get me a ring when we got Disney married, and there's a Pandora like Wanda Maximoff ring out right now. And I was like, you never got me a ring. Well, joke's on me because she bought me the ring.
Oh,
So
I love her.
I love her. I will show it off next week. I have been home and so I had it in my dish,
Now
but
you gotta get her a ring.
she bought herself a ring. So
So
she
she's
got
a
me,
Disney wife and a sugar mama.
she's the best. And so she got me, it's the Wanda ring from Pandora, and then they have a Groot one where it's like a little Groot, and the ring part is like leaves and branches.
Oh,
And she was like, well, I have to have that. And so now we are officially Disney married with rings.
congratulations.
So that was my week.
I have to tell the story that you made me laugh so hard when I was like, "Hey, just check." Like, I didn't even ask you because I feel like you would have told me. But my niece, I was telling them that there was a hurricane and like an influencer that I watch, her like nursery was flooding and she's like gonna give birth at any minute. And so she was freaked out. And she just stops me and she's like, "Is Miss Karen okay?" And I was like, "Dunno." And you told me it's not even going to be a hurricane when it gets here anyways. And I was like, no one says that here. I mean, we have hurricane parties. Like, we don't
Yeah.
take them as seriously as we should. But
Well, I
Hurricane Irma was a tropical storm when she hit here, and that's the longest I've ever been without power in my life. So don't you look down your nose at a tropical storm, ma'am, because they can do just as much damage.
Okay, so everything everything kind of like compounded on Sunday, which was when I was driving home.
Yeah.
So as I was leaving,
Your hurricane.
first of all, there was apparently an earthquake, which I was on the road, so I have no idea. Apparently it's centered in Ojai, and I was like not near there at that point, so it wasn't for me. But as I'm driving, and this is like supposedly like when the hurricane is supposed to be like hitting Southern California, right? I'm like driving and I'm like, okay, it's raining a whole bunch. Like this is different,
Yeah.
because we're used to being on fire, not flooding.
Yeah.
But like, it was raining a whole bunch. But for the most, there were like patches where it was like really, really heavy rain. There was only maybe one spot where I like could not see out of my
Mm-hmm.
windshield, but it was because I was next to like a 14 wheeler
Am
who
I?
was
Yeah.
splashing me and there was a bunch of puddles. But for the most part, it was just like rainy. And once I hit Bakersfield, it was clear.
Yeah.
There's, and then the other thing was like hurricanes are like windy, right? They're supposed to be really, like, really fast winds. The Santa Ana winds that they get down there are worse than what we got. Well,
Yeah.
during this time. So it was like, I mean, I get why people panicked because you hear hurricane and you're like,
Yeah. And you're like, oh
oh
my
no.
God.
And also, like, yeah, we're not really equipped to deal with this much rain. But, like,
What we
it was
do
funny
here in the
because.
South. Oh, you
Mhm.
got.
No, I
No,
was
you
gonna
go
say it
first.
was funny because I was at Steamy Lake Con and so many people were like, I am changing my flight. I got my flight changed, and
Those are
all of
East
this.
Coasters.
Yeah. And
Those are people
and
on this side of
and it was
the
so funny
country.
because I think it was Estelle and Dana I was talking to, and we were talking about this, and they're like, "Yeah, when we got the alert, we thought it was for back home, not
Yeah.
here." And I was
Yeah.
like, that's fair. That's fair.
Here in the
Yeah.
South, we see a hurricane coming and we plan a Disney trip. Because like all of the people who are like super afraid of hurricanes or like, oh my God, like people who don't deal with them and like really panic,
Hmm.
they don't come to Disney that week. They cancel their trip.
I mean, that's
And
fair.
so, yeah, like
Yeah.
we've been a couple of times where like I think one of them was Hurricane Matthew, where they were like Orlando's going to be a direct hit, and in the middle
Hmm.
of the night it just shifted away. And
Uh-huh.
so we literally like I think there was like a stand-up fence that fell over, and we were like, maybe the hotel will rebuild. And I'm not like hurricanes are serious, like people die. Like
Yes. Yes.
I'm not trying to negate that fact,
Right.
but at the same time, a lot of people who like live in the area of hurricanes
Right.
regularly will tell you like, yeah, we go get our bread and our milk and our
Yeah.
eggs, and then we have hurricane parties where it's like, what else are you gonna do?
Right. There's only so much you can do. But yeah, it was funny because like we had the hurricane alert, we had the earthquake, which was like apparently like a 5.1. So I was like,
I don't know
I
what
didn't
that
feel
means.
it.
That
It's a
means
scale. It's a
yeah, I mean, I
scale.
know that, but I don't know if
But like,
5.1. I don't know if that's
well,
bad. I don't know if that's good. I don't know if
you
that.
start at like 1 is the lowest, and then as you go higher, it gets exponentially like
But
bigger.
is it like 1 to 100 or is it one to
It's like I
10?
think it's like 1 to 10.
Okay. See,
Yeah,
I'm like,
so
if it's a five
it's
out of a
like
hundred, it's like,
right.
why are you even
But
telling me
it's
about
like
that?
but like the difference between like a 3 and like a 5 is like huge. Like it's a huge
Okay.
difference kind of thing. Like it gets exponentially bigger the bigger the
Yeah.
number. So like it's a fairly large earthquake, which I did not feel because I was
Yeah.
first of all in a car and second
Yeah.
of all not close enough to the epicenter.
Yeah.
I think I heard that there were like shock waves of like a 4.0 afterwards
Yeah.
outside of Ojai, but
I would
it is.
fucking die. Like, I can handle a hurricane. I can handle a tornado. Like, I don't like it. Obviously, I don't want to, but like, I can do that. The ground starts shaking.
It's so
Uh-uh.
normal for me that sometimes I
Uh-uh.
don't like for like the smaller ones I don't even like it doesn't
Yeah.
phase me. Like
Yeah.
we've literally slept through like 3 4.0 like earthquakes in the middle of the night because it is what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah. But
That
yeah,
was a
so like
tangent.
it was. But what I was going to say really quick was that, we had the hurricane alert, we had the earthquake, and people were like, is California okay? Like, what did you do to piss off the world? And my friend was like, it's the universe saying that the studios need to come back to the
Yeah.
negotiation table. And I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? That's fair because it's
That's fair.
centered in Southern California where Hollywood is. I'm like, I feel that.
You
You hear
guys.
that? You hear that, studios?
Yep.
Pay your people and
Hey,
don't use AI.
never. Gross.
Ugh, so gross.
Um, do you have a fictional non-hurricane boyfriend?
I do. I do. My fictional boyfriend of the week is Levi Ward from Love on the Brain for reasons that are like slightly spoilery, but I promise it's just chef's kiss. And in my mind, and this like, I feel like this really means something because I never say this. But in my mind, he's Adam Driver.
Levi?
I
Oh, I gotta
felt
read
it.
that one
I
then.
felt
Like,
it. There are, okay, and the other thing, like, added to that is like, there are so many references to Star Wars,
yeah, she's a
and
nerd.
she's a nerd, and I love it. I mean, obviously it's sprinkled throughout, but like, this one specifically, I was like, B and Levi's favorite movie is The Emperor Strikes Back.
Yeah.
And like there's a moment very early on where like she just like damsel in distresses in on her first day in the lab, and Levi comes in and like swoops her up and saves her, and she's talking about his like big strong arms, and I'm just like picturing like Adam Driver. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like this means something because I never say this.
It
Mandy says
does.
it all the time, but I
I
never.
started I started to text you earlier today because it was funny, and it's coming up now that like this is funny. My husband all day was like telling me all the things he has to do when he gets home. Like, I've got to edit our podcast, and I've got to do this, and I've got to do that, and and he's got like this long laundry list of things. So he gets home and he's on his computer for like 5 minutes, and I go downstairs and he's in the bed watching something on TV. And I'm like, this does not look like editing. And he's like, yeah, I'm just going to take a break for a little bit. I'm like, you're down here in the bed watching. And I look up at it and I'm like, is this Star Wars? And he's like, yeah. And so I lean down for a second and I'm like, does this have Adam Driver in it? And he says, no. What's the point? Just like, what's the point? And walk out. I'm like, cares about Star Wars if Adam Driver's not going to be there?
Oh,
Ah,
I love it. That's hilarious.
waste of time. Waste of
Oh
my
my
time.
God. That cracks me up.
That makes me so happy that you're on the Adam Driver as a book boyfriend train.
This was Levi was like the first, maybe not the first, but like this is one of the few times where
Very
I'm like,
strong.
I've got the vibes. I feel the vibes.
Oh, love that man.
He's he's not as grumpy as I picture Adam Driver,
Yeah.
but the vibes are there. The
I
vibes are
saw
there. I
I saw
promise.
a TikTok of an interview of him where he was talking about like after he was in the Marines at Juilliard, where he's just making people cry just with his personality because like he's like, I was a Marine. I was in the Marine aspect of like, you don't have to be polite. You're just direct and you say it, and then people would just start crying. Like, oh God, I didn't
But
mean to
also
do
I
that.
could see that. I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I
yeah.
mean,
Just seeing his face, I can picture that so perfectly just happening. Yeah.
I saw, and this is not even related to him, but it's just an aside, a similar. I joked with my brother that I had seen people talking about like the Apple goggles or whatever. What do you call it?
I don't know.
VR, the Apple VR
Okay.
that's like gonna be like $6,000, I think. And somebody said that they're gonna get it just so that they can sit in Don't Worry, Darling and have Harry Styles yell at them. Like, freaking vibe. Like, yeah, I'll sit there and listen to Harry Styles yell at me and pretend like I'm there. What do I care? My brother was like, that is so weird. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not weird.
Oh my
It's fine.
God. And on that note, do you
Yes.
have a fictional boyfriend?
I have two.
You're getting so greedy. Usually it's
I
me.
know. So the old sick crow grew on me.
I knew it.
I'm here for Arthur Starling because every time he looks at Opal, you know how there's always like there's a glint of something before he puts the mask back on, or before she's like he looks like a man who is starving before he like covers his face, and I ride hard for that. Okay, like I
Yeah.
love it. He kisses me like he's dying.
Yeah.
Line. So
Yeah.
like she said that a few times, and I was like,
I'm in. I'm
sold.
sold.
I am in with this. I'm all in. And then I feel like I should also say, because it's the truth, I'm not just making this up, say the villain from Assistant to the Villain, because he gave me Ben Barnes
Oh,
vibes.
fair.
He like
Fair.
swooped around like the Darkling, and I'm always
You
here
know
for
what?
anybody who
That's
acts
fair.
like the Darkling.
I didn't think about that because I
Yeah.
didn't not read that this week. But yes, that is
Yeah.
very relevant to this week.
And actually, we're gonna change our clothes, and then we're gonna talk to Hannah Nicole Mayer.
We're magic. Magic.
Just watch. We're gonna like snap our fingers, and for the patrons, we're gonna have different clothes on in a minute.
It's
A
gonna be
wardrobe
magical.
change.
It's you won't even see it coming. Oh my gosh. Good choices. Good
Yeah.
choices.
Thanks.
And that sound means we have an intruder alert.
Intruder alert.
This week we have the pleasure to speak with Hannah Nicole Mayer, who is the author of Assistant to the Villain. You possibly know her from TikTok.
You
I'm
probably
told
know
that
her
is
from
where she
TikTok.
started. Welcome, Hannah. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you guys so much for having me on. I'm so excited.
Thanks for
We are
joining
so
us. We're
thrilled
so
you're here.
excited.
We're kind of having pinch me moments. This is crazy.
I'm
You took
having a
over.
pinch me moment.
You took over the Barnes and Noble Instagram account like 2 days ago, and now you're talking to little old us. Like that's
I don't know who let me do that. I don't
that
know
is
who
so
okayed that.
cool.
It was so much fun, but I remember waking up the morning I did it, and I was like, "Who allowed this?" Because I have no idea what I'm doing. I just like
Well,
crossed my fingers, and I was like, "Hope for the best."
you're
Was
an
that
author
so
now.
much
This is the
fun?
thing that you
Yeah.
do.
Oh, it's so like I know, and I'm like, people are like, "Well, you're an author," and I'm like, "Right." You said it out loud, and it's not like just thinking.
Girl,
So
this is your
wild.
book.
I
We're
know.
holding your book. This is
So
crazy.
That's
So
wild.
the first thing we normally ask is for anybody who's been living under a rock and not anywhere close to TikTok, can you give us like the elevator pitch, quick synopsis? What's your book about?
Yes, and I will try my best because I am so bad at doing the elevator pitch. Like I have been asked, like, pitch your book, and I'm like, oh, I'm so bad at this. All right, I'll try. So it's essentially like a Grumpy Sunshine fantasy office romance between a like really bubbly young woman and a morally gray fantasy villain. They work together in the office, and essentially they have to discover together who in the office is betraying them to the heroes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
I
it.
did that
It was
quickly, right?
really, you did great. It was really hard
Thank
for
you.
me to not make the villain Michael Scott because I'm
You
picturing The Office.
yeah, you absolutely could make a Michael Scott. It would be totally fine.
He's much more competent, I feel, than
And
Michael Scott,
fine.
and hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Hey,
like
Michael Scott has his moments.
when he got older, now
Yes,
Steve
now
Carell
Yeah.
Steve
is like
Carell has
Yes.
got it.
he aged like
Yeah.
fine wine. But I did. There was one character. I think her name was Becky, who was like
Oh,
straight up
Becky.
Angela, and so I was like, I got Angela over here. But then is she walking into Michael Scott's office, or is she walking into the villain? They kind of got married in my head. Like both
I missed the opportunity to make her obsessed with cats, and I'm now like kicking myself. I'm like,
no.
oh,
Oh
I
no, that's
missed it.
fair.
It's never
I
too
love
late.
it though.
Book two, maybe she'll like develop an obsession.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
As long as she's a cat named Bandit, that somebody has to say.
Yes, which would ironically fit so well.
It really
really
would though.
Oh my
So
god, it's all coming together.
I mean, I get like the vibe, like I get why as this generation, like why you would want to do like the Office mashup with anything, but like what gave you the idea? Like I'm gonna do like an Office fantasy romance. Like I love it, but where did it come from?
So it didn't like start off where I was like, you know, it would be funny if I mixed The Office with. It didn't really start that way. It kind of ended in a way that I'm like, oh, so they're pitching it Once Upon a Time meets The Office because it is like office
Yeah.
hijinks meets like fantasy fairy tales like in Once Upon a Time. So it literally all started because I was trying to think of funny skit ideas and I was like just tossing up ideas around and I was like, God, it would be funny if I was like an assistant to one of the fantasy characters and it would just be ridiculous and not at all serious. And I had originally was like, I'll do it for like the fantasy heroine and I'll be like at 10 a.m. You have to let out a breath you didn't know you were holding and like something like that. and,
Your orbs
and
are
I was
gonna
like,
blink.
yeah, your orbs are gonna glow at this time, and you're gonna sing fight song on the roof. Like it's gonna be a whole thing. And I eventually was like, and I have such an obsession with villains. I love villains. I love more like great characters. And I was like, I have so many more ideas for like a villain. I think that would be funny. I could like open the door and be like, sir, do you need help cleaning up the blood? Like, what do you need? Like, so it started off just literally from the skits. But I remember from the beginning, doing the first skit and going, they're in love. The villain and his assistant, they're in love. They just don't know they're in love.
Yeah.
but they will fall in love. So I continued to make the skits, and then from there out, it just like became like my favorite thing to do. It was like my favorite videos to make. It was constantly on my mind, and I was writing something different at the time, and I was like, I'm not sure like if I'm really into the story I'm writing right now, and I just keep thinking about the villain and his assistant and the office and like what's going down in the office right now. So I like was like, I have to sit down and write it. So it literally all stemmed back from the skits. And I also loved the idea of having like a rom-commy type story in a
Oh,
fantasy setting. I feel like there are some books coming to play in that sort of niche genre now, but I
mhm.
love the idea of like I love rom-com books and I love fantasy. And I was like, what if they met and then like were together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I really love it.
it's so
Yeah.
much fun. Yeah.
Thank you.
So did you started, you mentioned doing these skits, you just thought of the idea doing the skits, were doing it on TikTok, and then at what point did you decide like I'm going to turn this into a book? This is going to be a thing.
I feel like that's what's so special about it. I feel like it was really a community encouragement thing where like I started doing them and I remember thinking like from the get-go this would be a hilarious book. Like I will write this one day.
Mhm.
I don't know when, where, why or how, but maybe one day. And then the maybe one day turned in up to let's do it today. So I'd been like doing it for a couple of months at that point, the skits, and it was like everything. I loved it so much. It was such like a nice way to get out of my head for a little while and making them was like the feeling I got making the skits and like thinking of storylines and doing things like that was like how I felt reading my favorite book. So it felt
Aw.
really special the whole time doing it. So I was like, I just want to see what a book would look like. So, and for months, if you've seen the skits, it's literally me yelling at someone who's on the other side of the camera.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a wall that I'm yelling at or an empty chair. But all the while, I'm in the assistant's perspective. So the whole time I was like, what would the villain say here? And like, what would he be doing? And I had been thinking about other perspectives the whole time and like building and mapping a story out in my head all the while. So when I sat down to write it, it just like came out like so
Just
quickly. I remember the first day, I think I wrote like almost 10,000 words in one sitting because I was just like, go, 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 go.
you
And
got to
that's
get
not
it
the book.
out on the paper,
I can't, I don't know who that
on
girl
the
was.
page.
I don't know where she came from. I don't know like, what her name is. I'd like to meet her again. But I just typed, typed, typed. And I remember I was sitting at the kitchen counter. My mom walked in and she was like, you've been sitting there a long time and that chair has no back. Your posture is going to be not great when
Your
you're
back is probably killing
Oh
you.
I was like
no.
hunched over like a gremlin, like typing away. But when I was done, I like read it back and it just felt so special that I was like, I have to keep going. So it was a couple months in that I decided, like, for sure, this is happening. I'm doing it. And I made like the formal announcement to everybody that was watching the skits. And it was kind of something we all got excited about together. But the whole time, people were like commenting, this should be a book. You should make this into a book. And I was like, one day, I don't know when, but one day.
Yeah.
So it was a mixture between like the pull I felt and also like all these people like uplifting me and also being so excited about it. It was like a really unique, super special thing.
That's really
I
cool.
love that.
Yeah, it was exciting.
I want to make you feel a little special because I want to tell you that I faced one of my greatest fears while reading your book, in
Oh
that I
no.
am deathly, deathly afraid of frogs. And Kingsley freaking me out the whole time, but I kept going because it like I had to know, like I had to see it through. I had to know what the ending was. But every time he was on the page, I was like, "Ooh."
Like, no, no. You know what's so funny about Kingsley is that he was not in the first draft of the book. He actually was added later because early on when we were still doing developmental edits with my publisher, they also in that time showed me the cover of the book. And they were like, we love this little frog up here. And I was like, I'm obsessed with him. He has to be in the book. Like he
Yeah.
can't just be there and not be in the book. So me and my editor back and forth were like, his name is Kingsley. I was like, he sits on the desk and he
I
says
like
like
his little
silly
signs.
things.
Yes.
Yes, his little signs. Because in my head, I was like, he's gonna be like Salem the cat from the Sabrina the Teenage Witch
Mhm.
show, where he just like is just there for like sarcastic commentary.
Yeah.
But but he just holds up the sign. So I'm like, So maybe I'll give you the first draft of the book and you can read that one.
I loved his sass. I did love his sass, but every time I had to picture him, I was like, oh God.
He was so funny too, because when I went back in and we were still like developmental edits, so we were like moving scenes. I was cutting things that I didn't like anymore and changing a ton of stuff. And I was like, he just fits in all these little spots. Like he was just always meant to like hop on in there. Like he was always supposed to be there. And he's just like their little friend. But yeah, if you want it, you could pretend he's like a turtle, if that makes you feel better. Like
that actually helps.
You could like talk about he's a turtle.
And I'm very thankful because the actual book, which I will get, of course, but I'm really glad that the ARC doesn't have him on the cover because I will be scared of him. Like, it's really bad.
You're so valid for that, because I feel like I get like that with certain bugs.
Yeah,
I am like so okay with most bugs. Like I'm not afraid of spiders. I have a weird love for stink bugs that is like, I'll probably have to go into therapy and deal with that. I just feel bad for them because they have a mean name. And I feel like I would stink also if I was scared or squished. So I get it.
Yeah, that's valid.
It was so funny because she had read it before me. And so when I went and I opened it up and I was reading, and then Kingsley came on the page, I was like, how did she get through this book?
Because we are talking like terrified of Kermit the Frog. I've never seen The Princess and the Frog. Like, I can't.
Gosh.
She doesn't leave her house unless her husband has checked the porch first. Like,
you know what? It's like, so fair. It's so fair.
So she's like, the fact that she powered through this is like,
I'm so honored. I'm very honored. He's a turtle. Just for you. He's a turtle. He's not even a frog. He's a turtle.
Yeah. There we go. That's it.
Perfect.
Yeah. He's a turtle prince.
He fixed it. He fixed my phobia. I'm not afraid anymore.
Liar.
So what is your writing process? That's all in good fun. I'm not like critiquing the book at all.
No, I promise I'm not taking offense to a very real fear that you have, I swear. It's so valid.
So yeah, what is your writing process like? Are you a plotter? Are you a pantser? It sounds like you're a pantser if you just sat down.
I am a pantser through and through. And it's really just how I do life generally. Like, it doesn't shock me that that's how I would do things. Like, when I sat down to write it, that first day I didn't have a plan. After that, I started thinking like concretely, this is the conflict in the story. This is what they're trying to work through. And I did have like set points I wanted to hit. I had no clue how I was going to hit them. I was like, let's just see what happens. Like, let's find out and let's see where it goes. And there were scenes where I was like, this is what I want to happen. And then that's not what happened. And I'm like, am I even writing this? Like, who
the characters are like, no, that's not what happened. Yeah, you're telling their story.
Right. There were scenes where I was like, these characters, like there's two characters in the book that have had weird chemistry when I was first writing it. And I was like,
yep.
Happened.
And they're unlikely.
Right. And originally, when I was like thinking of the story, that was not in my head at all. And then they interacted and I was like, oh no.
You're like, oh no, wait a second.
There were these nights where I would like, when it would be like late at night and I'd be typing, and then I'd wake up in the morning and I'd look and I'd be like, that wasn't me. Who did that? Like,
who wrote this?
I don't know. But now that we're starting to work on book 2 now, and I outlined for like concretely outlined for like the first time ever, and I actually felt so good about it because I was like, all right, this is a little less stressful. I see why people like to plan. Because
it's good.
I feel like I know what
daunting to me to write an outline. That seems terrifying. You're
and when I say outline, I mean the loosest version of an outline. And I literally was sending my publisher like parentheses, like this could change. Like I'm told this is not set in stone, because I don't want to be like super tied down to anything. And my publisher's super awesome, and they're so down for whatever, and they're so great with creative like bounce back with me. Like we have such a great rapport. So I wasn't like worried about that or anything, but I was like going through the outline and I was like, okay, I'm going to hit this beat. I'm going to hit this beat. I'm going to hit this beat. And then everything else is just, let's see how we get there, because I don't know. And I really like just seeing what my brain does, because I think I do work better a lot when I'm improvising and when I'm doing things. Like most of the skits that I did on TikTok, I did not write them. I just like turned on the camera and I was like, let's see what comes out of my mouth. Like, I don't know what's going to happen today. Like, let's see what happens. Like, I don't think I actually wrote one down, because I've done like 200 episodes of Assistant to Villain on TikTok. And I think out of those episodes, I wrote maybe 10 of them. The rest are just me like Let's see what I
Just
say.
vibing. Hey, that's cool though.
Yeah. So I like maybe a mix. I think I started off as a pantser, and now I think a nice mix of both, like a little order and a little chaos.
I feel like
I like it.
that's a lot of what authors who start out as pantsers, like I feel like a lot of authors that we've talked to have been like, I was a pantser and now it's like
Then
a
it kind of
little bit more.
evolved.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
guess
A little
yeah.
more
that's just how you
polished.
grow as an author.
I
I
think
don't
part
know.
of it
Couldn't
too
be
is
me.
like, yeah. Well, I think part of it too is like now that it's a series, I want to make sure everything's like cohesive and connecting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, all right, there has to be some order here because I have a terrible memory. So I'm going to be like, wait, what was this person doing like last time? 'Cause I don't remember. I have like a diagnosed terrible memory. Like if somebody tells me something, I will like immediately forget it if I don't remember. So I'm like, gotta like go back and check on this. So yeah, I feel like the planning does come with like the evolution, but I'm gonna hold on to the pantser part as long as I can.
Well, speaking
I mean,
of
I think
book
it's a good
two,
mix.
is there anything that you can kind of tease for us? Any secrets we can weasel out of you?
I think what we started to see from how Evie's evolution that we started to see in book one is gonna get way more intense in book two. And slow burns are gonna ramp up in book two as well.
Oh,
I
good,
have
because you
like
are
all of
killing
these.
us.
Listen, girl, we have some words for you.
I like literally, I know it too because I'll have people comment on my videos and be like, there better be so many so many scenes, and I'm like, they're gonna be so mad at me because they're like, is there spikes? And I'm like, this is like slow,
Yeah.
and I feel like
It's gonna
it
be
makes
worth
sense,
it.
right? It makes sense that it's slow because he's her boss, so
Yeah.
it should be. I feel like it. And it like should, and it's a fantasy world. There's severed heads hanging from the ceiling, so we have to suspend our disbelief a little bit.
True.
but,
True.
but I feel like in terms of their relationship, it just makes sense for it to move slowly. And I love tension. Like it is my
Mhm.
favorite thing. In season 2 of Bridgerton, where their pinkies like got close, I screamed and paused it and
Yeah.
like took a lap around my house.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. I'm with you. 100%. I love tension. I love some angst. I love pining. I live for
Yes.
pining. I live for
Yes.
it.
I just love smooches, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Me too. Me too. Me too. And there was literally a point at the beginning of the book where I was like, this is gonna be so slow burn. And I was like, but I want them to kiss. And I was like thinking about like they have to kiss at some point. I'm not gonna say how or when or if they kiss. I don't know if they kiss. I don't think they do. I don't know. But I have to make this work somehow because it's slow burn, but I'm like, I love a good kiss. Like I
Yeah.
love a good kiss scene. It's just so like cinematic and I just love it. So I was in the same boat. There were parts where I was like, kid, what are you doing? Like, but I'm like, I have full control of this situation, so I don't know who I'm talking to.
Okay, but do you really?
The
I think it's
characters
No,
are in
the
your head.
characters.
absolutely
Yeah.
not. I have no control. I'm like, I don't know what I'm
They
doing. I'm just
do
like,
their own damn thing.
it's so true.
Okay, so this is a question that we ask everyone who comes on the podcast, and this is where everything that you've ever consumed leaves your brain. It just like is gone. You know that everybody in the world is going to fall in love with the villain as soon as they read this book, right? We have a segment that we call Fictional Boyfriend of the Week, where we just pick our favorite character that we've read that week or watched on TV or movie. Karen's had a fictional granny, so it doesn't have to be a fictional boyfriend, but like, do you have like a fictional boo thing, bestie?
Oh, I do got a thing. Yes, I do. So one of my really good friends, Amber V. Nicole, wrote Book of Azrael, and I
Oh,
love
I
that
haven't
book.
read
So
it yet, but I want to.
it's so good. Just prepare for pain, but it's so good. And that's the best part is when I have a friend that has it, and I have so many very talented friends, and I have all of their phone numbers. So when they write something that upsets me, I call and I yell at them, and I'm like, this is so great. Like I could just yell at you, and it's so fabulous. But yeah, I just started reading the second book, Throne of Broken Gods, and Liam Samkiel. I just love. I think I love him the most because he's a little grumpy, but he does have a little bit of a sunshine tendency. And the female main character is very Catherine Pierce from the Vampire Diaries. So in my head, they're almost like a Stefan Catherine dynamic if you've ever seen the Vampire Diaries. And it's just so good.
Yes.
It's just so good. Like, oh, I'm just obsessed. Like, I just started the second one, but it's like reigniting my love for Liam, and I'm like, oh, I remember I was so obsessed with this man. I was so obsessed with this man. I was like, welcome back, honey. I missed you. Like, I hope you missed me.
You just brought up, like, anytime I think of the Vampire Diaries, though, I get really upset at how they robbed us of Klaus and Caroline storyline.
Oh, please.
He was your first love. I intend
hurt.
to be your last, and they do nothing after that. Are you
if
kidding?
you would have just said like overall, who is your biggest morally gray crush? It would be Klaus all the way.
I said that on
like,
Facebook today to somebody, like, not my greatest fictional
bar.
crush, but they were like, "Who's your favorite vampire?" And I was like, Hudson Vega and Klaus. I was like, we're a Klaus Michelson household. Like, my family doesn't know that, but like, this is a Klaus Michelson space. Like,
they don't need to know. They don't need to be involved.
Damon? No, it's not going to be Damon. I'm sorry, it's Klaus.
I do love Damon. I love almost all of the characters in that show. But Klaus,
I had such a crush
Damon
on Rebecca.
Me too. Didn't we
God,
all?
she's beautiful. She's so beautiful.
She's also just like witty and smart. And like so good. She's got a little sass. I love a character with a little sass. All the Michelsons, Elijah too.
Yes.
Like they all.
My husband loved Elijah. He was like, Elijah's my favorite. No, he's not, because you live in a Klaus house, but he could be your second favorite. They're outvote. You know how like Leslie Knope tells Ben, like, we're a Red Vines family. We're a Klaus family here. Like, you don't get to say, just like we're just Mariano people. Like, we're we're team Jess.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Love Jess.
Like, you live here, you don't get a choice. I'm sorry.
Yes, I love it. I'm the same boat.
I'm sorry to take us on that tangent, but you brought up the Vampire Diaries, and I just
no. The Vampire Diaries.
It's very on brand.
Yeah.
It's very on brand.
We're incoherent here.
It happens.
I love it.
That's how it is here.
That's the only way to be, really. I feel like when I talk with my friends about any form of media that we like, we will go on 20 different tangents and we won't even notice until it's over. And we're like, where do we start?
How did we get there? Yeah. And then it's like, oh, we went from this to this to this. And you find the progression.
It happens so often that I like, when I'm in editing, I have to like take notes so that I'm like, oh, that's how we got there, because it's insane.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I have another that we normally ask. We know that we love your book, right? We know that you are spending a lot of time writing. When you are not writing, what are you reading? Or like, what's your favorite book? I know you just told us about the Book of Azrael, but like, is there any other books that you love? Any series that you're like, this is my jam?
You know what? A lot of the times, if I'm drafting, I'm often not reading fantasy just because I don't want to be. I like, if I'm writing fantasy, I'm like, I can't be reading fantasy,
right? And
I'll usually read, but I still like to be kind of not in our world completely. I am obsessed with historical romance. I love historical romances. I think they're so fun, and I eat it up every time. It could be the same book, copy paste, like same trip. Every time I'm like,
change the names. And it's like,
I'm like, what's gonna happen next? Like, I'm shook. Like, no, but I love them so much. And one of my favorite authors, who I think is just hysterical, Tessa Dare. She is so witty and funny, and her characters are so likable, and they do normally have almost a found family vibe to a lot of them. But I'll find myself just rereading her books if I feel like I'm having a bad day. They always make me laugh. And the best part about reading those books is you know they end happy. You know, no matter what, you're going to feel happy at the end. So it's great if I need it's great if I need a brain break from like a high stakes. I love high stakes fantasy so much. But if I ever need like a brain break from that, I always gravitate towards historical romance, like almost always.
I love that. I'm like that with cartoon cover romances. Like, I'll get like, I have to have like the fantasy. I love the high stakes, but then like I need a palate cleanser where, you know, you just need to chill out, where you, like you said, you know, they're going to be happy in the end. It's going to take a little while to get there, but it's going to be good.
Yes, exactly. And it just makes you happy. Like, it's just
they're so quick to get through as well. So fantasy, just go.
Fantasy makes you happy too, but it's such a journey to get there, and it can be so heavy and just so like, oh, I'm drained. My soul is drained.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Because you get
Yeah.
such, oh my God, I get the biggest book hangovers from reading fantasy. Like I've never gotten one from reading
Yeah.
contemporary or historical, but every time I read a fantasy, even if there's romance at the end, I'm like,
I read Divine Rivals this weekend and I want to
I
leap
heard
from my
it's
roof.
amazing.
It is
No,
devastatingly beautiful, like
I'm
heartbreakingly
scared.
perfect. But there's a cliffhanger is all I'm gonna say. And
Brad.
I do not regret it, but I might have low key like told my bestie off for like recommending it to me. I was like,
Oh, like I literally call my friends that wrote the books and yell at them. So you're so valid for doing that.
why are you doing this? What did I do? What did I do to you?
Oh my gosh, when does the next one come out? Maybe I'll wait to read it.
The day after
Day after
Christmas.
Christmas.
Yeah, so it's
Oh
not
my
too
gosh.
far, but
They
I'm
pushed
dying.
Far
it
enough
up.
that it's-
It was later, I think, and then they pushed it up. So
Oh,
thank God.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So many good books coming, I feel like in the
Yeah.
fall.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna be really busy this fall.
Yeah.
In the best way, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's gonna
It's
be
always- it's
cold
always
and
good.
rainy. Stay inside.
And
read
be
a book.
like,
Yeah, that's
I
all
need
I
to take
want.
like a week sick break just to catch up on some reading.
Yeah. I feel like that should be an excuse absent from work.
I think
Like,
so.
I mean,
It's
I've
it's
taken a
mental
day
health.
off for a book release.
You
for
I
sure.
also have. Correct. Yeah, me
I
too.
remember that she built herself a whole charcuterie board.
I
Huddled
did.
up. It was
I took it was
Oh,
for it
such
was
good
for
vibes.
it was
a
for
quart of
the
silver
Silver
flames.
Flames.
Yeah, it was like right after like COVID was still kind of raging, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go pick up my book. I'm gonna make myself a charcuterie board, and I'm gonna lay on the couch all day and not do a thing.
Oh
It was
my,
a vibe.
I love
It was
it. I
good.
love it so
the
much.
best.
I love
the
that
best
so much.
days.
I'm gonna have to do
Especially
that
with
for
the
Assistant
charcuterie
to the
board.
Villain too.
Do we have
Oh
a
my
title?
gosh, I'm honored.
Yeah,
Not
do
yet.
we?
Not yet.
Okay. Darn.
I'll let you know though.
I thought we would get
Yeah.
a scoop. So speaking of which, this is the part of the interview where I'm gonna pretend that I'm sorry. She's not even
I'll
gonna
never
pretend.
be sorry. No.
But I regret to inform you that now that you have been on the podcast, you're legally obligated to come back for every book release.
I would be so sad if I didn't. I had so much fun. I love
we always say
guys.
we don't make the rules, we just enforce them with these hands. So
I love it. There will be no forcing involved. In fact, you guys will be like, you don't have to, and I'll be like, wait, let me in.
No,
I want to be here.
Be like, please,
please come
like,
back.
This girl will not leave us alone. She's emailing,
Listen, after that ending, if you don't come back, we're gonna come find you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
So
just a little bit.
Sure. I know, I love that. I'm like, oh, cliffhanger, how rude. Like, I'm like,
right. Like, we don't also have yours that we're worrying about. I've lost sleep, Hannah. I've lost sleep.
Somebody was like in my comment section the other day, and they were like, this book better not end on a cliffhanger, Hannah. And I was like, I'm going to move far away and not be online anymore.
I'm changing my name.
Yeah.
I'm going off the grid.
English. I don't know what that comment said.
I literally think I responded with like just one of those running away emojis. And I was like, bye. Best of luck. Good luck.
See you later.
Oh
I'm just going to be over here.
Just
I'm going to hide. I'm going to go.
Hannah who? Don't even know her.
Don't know her.
Don't know her. Oh my goodness.
My gosh. Thank you so much for joining us. This was a blast.
This has been so much
Thank
fun.
you guys so much for having me.
So
I feel like you're a kindred spirit with us. Like I feel like
agree.
we vibe. Yeah.
I'm
having such fun. I'm like sad it's over.
It's okay. You can come back anytime.
Yes, really. Just let us know.
Just let us know. Like if you're bored one Thursday, just be like, hey, y'all
I'm logging in.
I'm
in, bitches. Here I am.
Oh, you're saying that because I actually will. I for real will.
You have to come prepared with a fictional boyfriend of the week. Like the
yeah,
well,
you have to be prepared to tell us what you've read, watched, or attended that week, and your fictional boyfriend. Yep,
I love it. Sounds great.
That's it.
Perfect. All right, everybody, please. This episode is coming out after the book has already released, so everybody needs to go pick up Assistant to the Villain. It's very good.
Hannah Nicole Mayer.
And if you get the first printing, it's got sprayed edges, which is beautiful.
Yes. Red sprayed edges.
Yay.
I cannot wait.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us. We can't wait to talk soon.
Thank you guys. Talk soon.
Fun. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Oh, she is so freaking cute.
She
Why
belongs
is
here.
she so pretty? She really does.
She's one of us.
Listen, Hannah Nicole, if you want to be a third on a podcast,
We record Thursday
just
nights.
say so. Thursday nights.
We take 2 breaks during the year.
Mhm.
So, just saying.
Come back, baby. We'll be here waiting for you. Seriously, that was so much fun, and I cannot believe we are talking to Hannah Nicole Mayer.
That was so cool. I love it. I want to say I love my job, but this isn't quite our job yet. But y'all keep supporting us, and maybe it could be. Hopefully.
Yes.
One day.
Manifestation.
Heck
I already
yes.
told Karin, I'm manifesting that one day we're gonna quit our day jobs. We're gonna have a business lawyer and a financial analyst, accountant, whatever, someone so that we don't have to do any of the math. We just do this.
We just do this. We just get to hang out and talk.
We can have a publicist who reaches out to everyone for us and schedules things for us, and all we have to do is show up and have read a book.
But I like that part.
Okay, you can do that part.
I
like that
our
part
publicist.
Too, so Karen's our publicist.
Yeah. Love it.
And we changed our clothes back. We're back into our original outfits. Wow.
It's magic. We have learned magic in the last week. Look at us.
Try and burn us at the stake. Just try. Just try.
Yeah.
We'll fight you.
It's hot enough here already, actually. I don't like it. All right. So next week.
I'm so freaking excited. I can't even be every time I think about it, I want to start crying.
This is insane. Next week, we are chatting with #1 New York Times bestselling author Tracy Wolff. What?
I get to thank her for Hudson Vega. I'm so excited.
You probably know her name because of her best-selling Crave series. Mandy is clearly talking about the Crave series.
Yes.
But we will be chatting with her about her latest novel, Starbringer, which is co-written by best-selling author Nina Croft, who is not coming on the podcast, but maybe eventually we'll talk to her. Who knows? Oh, God. Mandy will probably still try to talk about Crave, while I will be over here being like, how dare you?
I just want to tell her thank you for Hudson and thank you for making him sing Little Things. And making him appreciate Harry Styles. I appreciate a man who can appreciate Harry Styles, okay? I have to tell her that, and then we can talk about Starbringer for the whole time. I just have to thank her first.
Starbringer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I describe it as Guardians of the Galaxy, Firefly, The Breakfast Club, but if instead of Star-Lord, it was Killmonger leading the group.
Ooh.
Michael B. Jordan has entered the chat.
Listen, Michael B. Jordan can live in this chat. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Oh, that man.
He's been a book boyfriend lately too, because he was my Rowan in Thistle Grove.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's been a while since I've read the first 3 books, so
yeah.
But I did love Rowan.
Yeah.
But yes.
Next week.
We are very excited to welcome Tracy to the podcast and to chat with her. And I will probably, I don't know, yell and scream about
you might cuss a little.
I probably will. Because literally I finished the book and was screaming. And I scared my kid. And I was like, listen, you don't understand. I didn't
have that visceral of a reaction.
I didn't know that it was a series. I thought it was a standalone.
That makes more sense.
I thought it was a standalone.
I just assumed.
I finished it. Well, because normally I'll go on Goodreads and it'll have the little if it's part of a series, and so then I know, and it wasn't there, and so I was like, oh, it's a standalone, and so I was reading it and I get to the end and it ends, and I'm like, what?
How dare you?
What? I'm freaking out, and so I start Googling. I'm like, somebody needs to confirm that this is not a standalone. Somebody needs to confirm that this is not a standalone, because that cannot be how this ends. And thankfully on Tracy's website it says it's the first in a new trilogy, so it's fine. I'm fine. I'm not fine, but I'll be fine.
That makes so much sense, because I wondered why you had such a big reaction to it. I was like, it was a surprise, and I was pissed, but I wasn't like
Yeah.
cussing like you were. So
I
that makes it make more sense.
I lost my mind. I
Yeah.
lost my mind because I was convinced it was a standalone.
Yeah.
And
That makes sense.
I thought I was gonna die in that moment.
I'm smelling what you're stepping in now.
Yeah. It makes more sense now. With that context, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It was good times.
I cannot wait. This time next week, I'm gonna be like throwing up that we're like we'll be done talking at this point. I'm gonna be on cloud 900. This is so cool. What is this life?
What is this life?
What
I don't know,
is
but it's
this
exciting.
life?
It's very exciting. I can't wait. And
I
now
think
it's
we
time
haven't
for a
even had our
spiel.
announcements. Yeah, we got a spiel to do.
I think it's time for a spiel. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, follow, and subscribe wherever you are listening to us. Please also follow us on social media. We are at the Incoherent Fangirl on all the things.
Yay!
I'm so glad that I can just give one handle now. It makes me so
know.
happy. Please also visit our website where you can also stream all of our episodes and read our blog, which has so many reviews.
All
it's crazy.
the reviews. You
so many
will
reviews.
Love it.
You'll love it. You can also head on over to Patreon. Go to theincoherentfangirl.com/Patreon to subscribe. You'll get early access. Depending on what tier you go, you can get video episodes, and you might even get some exclusive deals. Who knows? Because we also have merch. You can shop our merch store. Go to theincoherentfangirl.com/shop and pick up a t-shirt or 2 or 5. They're all very cute.
Get one of each.
I did think today that we should at least make the Incoherent Fangirl one in child size, because I'm guaranteeing my child is going to be very mad if we don't get her one.
That's true.
So
we need to create one.
We'll insert some child size stuff soon.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, design ideas for our merch, or you just want to tell us that we're pretty, we will accept all of those. Send us an email at theincoherentfangirl@gmail.com, and we love hearing from y'all. I almost said the wrong thing there. I was like,
I know. I saw it.
I like paused. It was like reloading. And one final way to support the podcast is to rate and review wherever you are listening to us.
With words.
We
want to read your words.
Yes. It would be amazing. We would love that. Please do that. She is at Mandy Perv on all things.
And she's at Miss Made in China on all the things.
And once you have followed us on social media, as well as the podcast on social media, you can head over and visit our internet besties and do some self-care. Yes. Head over to herecomestenerd.com and use code FANGIRL to get 20% off your first order.
And then you can head to onceuponabookclub.com, and we've got 2 codes for you. You can't stack them, but you can just pick one. We don't care. We love you for using either one. Either use Karin 10 or Mandy 10 for 10% off.
Once you have got your bookish goodies and some new nerdy art, you're probably going to want something to keep you cozy. And you're going to head over to entrancingelixirs.com, where you can use the code FANGIRLT to get 10% off. But remember, there's no I in Fangirl. There is an I in Karin, though.
Yeah.
But in Fangirl, it's FANGRLTEA.
I just got 2 Entrancing Elixirs blends in today, and the new packaging is everything. Everything. So now you've got your art, your bookish goodies, your tea. You need something excellent to read. And from the start of this podcast, we have said that you've got to read the Fire and Starlight Saga by Amber D. Lewis. You just do. I don't make the rules, but I will come to your house and smack you for not following them. And I got reported on TikTok the other day. On Facebook. I got reported on Facebook the other day for saying that I would punch anyone who disrespects fudge rounds directly in the face. So trust and believe, I am violent. Head to amberdlewis.com and use code FANGIRL10 for 10% off your purchase.
Once you've supported our besties, you can head over and support the show husband as well.
Yay! So we've got Searchers and we've got Paranormal Mind. Paranormal Mind is a show and a podcast. You can check them out on YouTube. It's youtube.com/@searchersbelieve. And then the Paranormal Mind podcast. Or you can just go to searchersbelieve.com. And if you do some shopping there and use code FANGIRL10, you'll get 10% off.
Yay.
I know a guy, so.
She's the guy.
I'm the guy. I'm the guy. Yeah. It's me.
Hi, it's her. She's the guy.
I'm the one who knows how to use the e-commerce site, so I am the guy. I got questions about it today from the searcher because I'm the guy. You like that website design on the searchersbelieve.com? I'm the guy. Anyways,
Anyway.
that was
Oh,
the
wait, we're not done.
Uh-oh.
We would like to remind you that we will live for you.
Oh, yeah.
If somebody
I
is
almost
policing
forgot.
your shopping, just let them know. Your
You want a
besties over
giveaway.
at the Incoherent Fangirl, you want a giveaway. They sent you a present.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That
Just
you
tell
can
us
choose.
first so we know to
Just
corroborate.
Yep.
We'll lie.
Yeah. I'm pretty
Filthy
good with
liars over here.
Photoshop if I need to make up a fake Instagram post
Yeah.
that we deleted or something.
Yeah. We can head to Canva or Photoshop
We got you.
and just, yeah.
We got
You
you.
won. Congratulations.
We're so happy for you.
Yeah. Out of all of those people who entered, you won the thing that you wanted to
Exactly.
buy. But you got it for free because we did it. You're welcome.
Magic. The universe believes in you.
Yeah. And I think that might have been the Incoherent Fangirl.
Thank you for listening. We love you.
Bye.
We are sponsored by our friends at Here Comes the Nerd. Pins, stickers, magnets, and more. Here Comes the Nerd has happy art for all fandom-loving hearts. New customers can use coupon code FANGIRL during checkout for 20% off their first order at herecomesthenerd.com. Coupon applies to ready-to-ship items only.